Alright, in lesson 3, we are going to work through these problems together. Okay, exercise 1 says draw a line passing through point P that is parallel to line L. Draw a second line passing through point P that is parallel to line L that is distinct, different from the first one. What do you notice? Okay, so to begin this, you're going to use your transparency and your dry erase marker. Okay, and you're going to just trace your line. Okay, so we want to draw a line through point P that is parallel to line L. So all we would do really is just translate it straight up like this. This is one line, okay, and I would just put it under and draw it through. Try to keep it as parallel, as straight as possible, just like this. Draw the line. You gotta use the behind. And when you're doing these translations, any of these movements, you literally have to draw them with the thing, put the paper behind. If you have trouble seeing through the paper, make sure that you put a white piece of paper behind it so you can see the line you drew more easily. Okay. Now I cannot put another line here, okay, that is parallel. There's only one line that will go through point P that is parallel. Okay. So that's what we need to write here. There is only one line, or there will only be one line through point P that is parallel to the original line. Okay, in number 2 it says translate line L along vector AB. What do you notice about L and its image L prime? Okay, so same thing here. We're going to move the line. Okay, our vector is from A to B. Now when you see the vector sign, the first letter is the tail, the second letter is the tip. So it's going from A to B. So we're going to move it to the right. Okay, so what I'm going to do, how I'm going to do this, is I'm going to trace this line. Ooh. And I'm going to mark where A and B are, because essentially all I'm doing is moving it so that the tail where A is, right here, reaches the tip. So I'm just going to shift it over like this. So if you were to do this, this is what this looks like. Let me move it up. Okay, but then you're going to have to, you don't pick it up and try to draw it underneath. You literally move it to under the paper. Okay, so we line it up. I'm looking right there. I've got A lined up with B. I've got my line. Okay, I'm going to draw this. Let's see, where is this? Right there. Okay, right here. And I'm drawing it underneath so you guys can see it. But it should be lined up exactly with it. You put the arrows at the end. This is where A prime would be, or where A would be, and this is where B would be. And the original line was labeled L, so the new line will label L prime. Okay? So what we notice here is that when the vector is on the line, the vector's on the line, we notice that L and L prime overlap or coincide. So when the vector is on the line, L and L prime coincide, which means they overlap. Okay. Number 3. Line L is parallel to vector AB. Translate L along vector AB. What do you notice about L and L prime? Okay, so same thing here. except for they're not on the same line. There we go. Okay, so you got to trace the line, and because they're not on the same line, you got to trace the vector. Okay, so all this means is you're going to move this like this. Move the end of the vector to the tail of the vector to the tip, just like that. So if you were to draw this, it would look like this. So I'm going to put it underneath, line it up, just like that. Try to get the line to be as even as possible, and then we're going to draw it again. There it is. You only have to redraw the line. The original line was L, so the new line becomes L prime. And same thing happens here. If I were to draw this right, I drew it below so you guys could see it. If I were to draw this, they coincide or overlap. So the lines coincide or overlap. So L coincides with L prime. Alright, so again on number 4 we're going to translate, okay, that line using vector AB, and we're going to say what we notice. So we're going to start here. Okay, I'm going to draw my line, and I'm going to draw the vector, trace them. So essentially what you're doing is you're moving A to B, tail to tip. So we're just going to move it up just like this. We want to make sure that the vector is lined up, and then we would trace this line. Again, make sure that you're putting it underneath, because if you try to lift it up and try to draw it where you think it might be, that won't work. You have to be very precise and accurate. So you need to put it underneath and line it up. If you can see, my line is right there, my other line is there. So I'm going to just trace this line. I'm going to put my arrows at the end. This was L, so this becomes L prime. And what do we notice about this? We notice that when we shift them up or down, that L and L prime become parallel. So we can write this in two ways. L and L prime are parallel, or we can use it with symbols. L is parallel to L prime. Okay, either one of those will work. Okay. 5 and 6. Okay, so line L has been translated along vector AB, resulting in L prime. What do you know about lines L and L prime? So we had this line, we use this vector right here to get L prime. So based on what we can see, okay, and what we discussed over here, okay, when we move it along the vector, they should it should be at the end of the vector. Okay, so it's similar to this. So what we know about L and L prime here is that they are parallel. So L and L prime are parallel because they were translated along, L was translated along vector AB. So L is parallel to L prime. Okay, on 6. 6 is a little bit more difficult because we have a lot of different things going on. Okay, so translate L1 and L2 along vector DE. Label the image of the lines. If line L1 and L2 are parallel, what do you know about their translated images? Okay, so again, we got to draw all this stuff out. Okay, see why your transparency is very important that you have it. There's our vector. Okay, here's our line L1 and our line L2. Ooh. And you want to be very precise. Okay? And all we're going to do is move it along the vector. So D moves to E, just like this, and then you would draw the lines. Okay? I cannot do it from the top, so I got to move it to where it's on the bottom. Okay? So then I would draw my lines. It goes all the way to the edges. Ooh. See, this is why you should also use a pencil. That way your lines are better. So this was L2 prime. And if I can draw straight, this would be L1 prime. Okay, and because our original lines were parallel, when we translate them, our image lines will also be parallel. Okay, so because L1 and L2 were parallel, comma, L1 prime and L2 prime are parallel. So L1 prime is parallel to L2 prime. Alright, so summarize this up. If we translate something, two lines in the plane are parallel if they do not intersect. So when we're looking at these and we translated it, they remained parallel. Okay? A translation maps parallel lines to parallel lines, and all this was mapping it. It just means moved it. Okay, so we had parallel lines and we mapped them to parallel lines. Okay? And given a line L and point P are not point P is not lying on L, there is at most one line passing through point P that is parallel to L.